Hello everyone and welcome back to Total Football Talk. So this morning we're going to look at the latest news coming out of Old Trafford, and as always there's plenty of it. So we're going to jump in with the few top stories that are currently flying around at the minute, and obviously the main one is Marcus Rashford to Aston Villa. Get your guys' comments in there. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea for him to go there? Do you think it's a good idea to let United sort of send him off there on loan? Please drop me your thoughts on that one. Other stories that are coming out are Tail has turned the Spurs move down. It looks like Daniel Levy spinning his own version of why. We also look at what Ruben Amorim has, why he wants to keep Garnacho, and it looks like there's talks going on that. We'll also look quickly at what Ruben Amorim said about the Munich situation, about kind of the Munich memorial, and why, kind of what his understanding of it after kind of arriving at the club, and how important kind of the Munich disaster is surrounding the history of Manchester United, which is really, really important to look at. And then Dogru says goodbye at Lecce, and he's on his way. I was saying his medical was meant to be yesterday. I didn't actually realize that he was going to be playing for Lecce yesterday, but he was in the team, but he was on the bench, and he said his goodbyes. So we'll have a quick look at that. But okay, we'll jump straight in with the top story, and that is Marcus Rashford to Aston Villa. And this is starting to kind of break now. I think this is possibly off the back of John Duran going to the Saudi League. There's talks that Aston Villa have made an inquiry about Marcus Rashford, and Sky Sports are kind of reporting this at the minute. So I think this is a really interesting one. I'd love to get your thoughts and your views on whether you think Marcus Rashford is a good person to a good person to move to Aston Villa. Do we think that's a good thing to do? Just by the way, I'm Keith. I'm the host of this little channel. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're enjoying the content, which is, I've seen the viewing figures and they're going up, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you for anyone who is watching. And please hit me a like and subscribe if you could. That would be amazing. Okay, back on with the Marcus Rashford story. So Aston Villa have come in. I think John Duran's gone. I think he actually would fit in well to the Aston Villa squad at the minute. I think he'd be a good fit on their left side. I know they've got, I think Bailey plays on the right side, but I think they have room. Obviously, I don't think he'd play up front for Villa. But I mean, maybe Unai Emery, might think that he could be a player who could maybe fit in that kind of 9 spot. And also, obviously, Ollie Watkins to Arsenal. We know that Arsenal have tried to buy him, and we know it hasn't worked so far. It'd be interesting to see whether Arsenal come in with a kind of 11th hour bid. And if maybe there was some traction there, maybe Marcus Rashford could go to Aston Villa. But if you break down Aston Villa in comparison to Manchester United, are they a rival to us at the minute? So obviously they're in the Champions League. So if Rashford went there, he could probably still play in the Champions League, because he's not cup tied. He's also, so he'd be fighting for the possibility of winning the Champions League. Now, whether Villa can go on and win it, I doubt it. But he would get Champions League football, which I'm sure might interest him. Obviously, they're further up the league than us, so they'll be still fighting for a top 4 spot. And they're not a direct rival, because we won't be challenging Aston Villa this season. Our aim, I believe, is the Europa League, pushing on in the FA Cup, and just trying to push up the league. I don't think we're going to kind of get anywhere close to where Villa are. Despite the fact that we're actually on a good run at the minute, I actually think that Marcus Rashford will be potentially interested in that move, at least for a loan deal to the summer. And for me, as I said yesterday, if he was to go on a loan deal, it does help us as a club, Manchester United, get him out there, get people sort of talking about him again, giving him the opportunity to score goals, and be the match winner, and raise his value and his stock, because essentially that's what Manchester United need to do now. Is his value and stock are pretty much, I'm not saying rock bottom, but they are low due to the fact that he hasn't played in the last 13 games, or I think it'll be 13 games after the game tomorrow. So it's an interesting one. I'll hope that Marcus Rashford, for his sake, at least sort of has a look at this deal and explores it to the point where it's worth a shot, because Barcelona have come out yesterday and said that they're practically out of the running. I think that came from Fabrizio Romano. So if Barcelona aren't going to come back in, into this race. Aston Villa is his last hope. I thought before maybe there was last hope might have been Galatasaray, but if Aston Villa are throwing their hat in the ring, it means he still gets to play in the Premier League. He still gets to stay under the guise of Thomas Tuchel, and he can still show him that he has got the capabilities of doing it at the highest level in the Premier League, which should sort of all being well, get him back into the England squad, which again just raises his value for if we have to sell him in the summer. So I think there's a lot of sort of positivity surrounding this deal, and I think it's one that Marcus Rashford, I hope for his sake, decides to kind of look at a little bit further. Okay, so enough on Marcus Rashford. Other stories that are coming out at the minute are this. So the Tell is the other big story at the minute. And, Matthias Tell is either going to join Manchester United or Arsenal, or he's going to stay at Bayern Munich. Chelsea and Aston Villa are out of the race. And Spurs are also out of that race now as well. I believe Daniel Levy went over to have a talk, a sit down, whatever you want to call it, with Bayern Munich. And Bayern Munich I think they've agreed the fee, but Tell hasn't. Tell wants to assess his options. I believe he's looked at Spurs and he's maybe thought, what? They're maybe a good club, but they're obviously their current position in the league isn't very impressive. He would get game time there because obviously Spurs have picked up a lot of injuries. So I think there is the potential chance for him to get game time. But I think he's maybe looked at Manchester United and Arsenal and he's went, what? These clubs are maybe better. Manchester United are maybe a harder sell in terms of, where we are and what we're trying to achieve as opposed to where Arsenal are. But the flip side of that coin is he could look at Manchester United and go, well, they're a bigger club than Arsenal. I mean, on current form, that isn't the case. But, in stature, the possibility of coming to play for Manchester United and help resurrect this club, which is what Ruben Amorim is actually doing at the minute in the last few games. We've actually done quite well in the last 78 games. There is a slow upward trajectory, and it's really important that we stay on that upward trajectory. So I think there's a chance that Tell might join, especially if Rashford was to go to Aston Villa. We have to bring someone in there because we'll have let Anthony go and we'll have let Rashford go. And I don't think we can let any more forwards go without bringing in one in. So, and if Rashford goes to Aston Villa, Anthony's gone to Real Betis. If Garnacho was to go, which I think would be absolutely crazy now, we'll get on to him in a second. I think that would be absolutely mental because, we'd be losing 3 forwards and bringing none in. So I think even because Betis or Real Anthony's gone to Real Betis, I think that there's a real kind of possibility that Tell could come to Manchester United. So let's keep our eyes on that. But as I said yesterday, Tell with Garnacho, not one for the other. For me, that has to be the case. Okay, so we'll swiftly move on to the next little bit of news, and this was another one that was an interesting piece of news. It was Aston Villa are reportedly on the list of clubs as well. Sorry, I should have brought that in there now. Aston Villa are keen on Tell as well. So obviously they've got the John Duran money. Will they go for Tell? Will they go for Rashford? Rashford on the loan for me would probably do well. If they get Tell, I think they'll be getting a good player. But again, as I said before, potential and unproven in the Premier League. So it is a little bit of a gamble for whoever does take him, whether it is us or whether it is Villa. So yeah, that is a bit of a gamble on that one. Okay, we'll look at the stories that are coming out. And so Ruben Amorim has talked about the when he arrived at Manchester United in November, one of the first things he did was he went on the Old Trafford tour, and he heard a lot about the Munich air disaster, and he absorbed everything about it so he could get a better understanding for what the club really is, and he says, today, because I was in a difficult season, it feels like there's so much pressure on us, but when you look back at the club, at how the club responded to such devastating events in 1958, we have it easy in comparison, and that's why it's important to keep honoring the memory of Munich as we walk as we mark our closest home game to the 67th anniversary of this disaster next Thursday. So apologies guys, I've been on the old dyslexic side, so reading things out is a little bit tricky for me, so apologies I didn't read that out very well, but you get the gist of what Ruben Amorim's saying. He's talking about how difficult it is for the club, or how difficult it was for the club back in the late 50s, and what the devastation that they had to deal with, and how the club has kind of fought tooth and nail to drive itself forward to become one of the biggest clubs in the world. after such shocking events. So I think it's great that he's understanding the history of the club. I think it's brilliant that he's kind of immersing himself in this, in the history of Manchester United, and he's fully understanding what the club means to the fans, and what the club stands for on a kind of on a global scale. So yeah, I think it's very, very important that he's done that. And I think, as I said, he's doing a lot of really good things behind the scenes. He's starting to turn this oil tanker around slowly. I'm not getting excited, but I am happy with a lot of things he's doing. He's having a lot of issues to deal with, Marcus Rashford, Casemiro, etc. So, fair play to him. Excellent job. He's really grasping what Manchester United is, and let's hope he can carry on doing the same. And then the final story that we have this morning is Dogru has said goodbye. He was on the bench last night when he was saying goodbye till after he was used as an unused sub in their 3-1 victory over Parma last night. So we know that Dogru is on his way now for his medical. I mean, I thought he was doing it a few days ago, and then I'd heard the story that he was allowed to go back to Lecce, and I was praying that they weren't actually going to play him, which is good that he didn't. He was on the bench. He got to say his goodbyes. Everything's worked out nicely. Unfortunately for me, though, it would have been nice to have had him available for the Crystal Palace game. We don't, because it won't happen now. But he will be hopefully available maybe for the Leicester game in the FA Cup later in the week, and that will be hopefully his first touching point for Manchester United. And we can look forward to having a new player in the squad and something slightly different to look at. I'm not quite excited because we've done deals before and I've been excited, and then it just hasn't worked out. So I am happy. Let's see how he gets on. He's a young kid. Let's give him a chance. Let's not try and get on his back too quickly, and see if we can settle in and find the weight of the jersey before he can, really start getting his feet under the table. Okay, guys, thanks very much. That's the latest roundup this morning, and yeah, we might be back later today, but if not, we'll be back tomorrow morning with some more news for you. Okay, thanks. I'm Keith. Give us a like and subscribe. See ya.